Most people lose trust in the first moments of a conversation without saying a single wrong word. They walk away wondering, why don't people open up to me? Why do they hesitate, hold back, or doubt what I say? They blame their personality, their background, even their face in the mirror, when in reality the problem is much simpler and far more hopeful. They don't understand what creates trust in the human heart. Most men and women believe that trust comes from being honest, being competent, sharing plenty of information, or simply being nice enough. They say to themselves, I told the truth, I explained everything, I was polite, why don't they trust me? But what they do not see is that trust often breaks long before their honesty or competence has a chance to speak. It breaks in the first few seconds, in the way they respond, in the atmosphere they create with their tone and their attitude. Think of what happens at work. You share an idea in a meeting. You have thought about it. You believe it will help. You present it as clearly as you can. Yet as soon as you finish, you feel doubt in the room. Someone shifts in their chair. Another looks away. Your manager says, I'm not sure about that. And the topic moves on. You were not lying. You were not foolish. You were simply not trusted. Or consider your closest relationships. You mean well with a partner, a parent, or a child. You give advice. You try to help. You offer your opinion because you care. But instead of feeling supported, they become defensive. They say, you don't understand, or they shut down altogether. You walk away thinking, I was only trying to help, and you feel hurt that your good intentions were not received. The same pattern appears in friendships. A friend begins to share a problem, then suddenly changes the subject. You later discover they spoke in depth with someone else, not with you. They keep a quiet distance, confide only so far, and you cannot quite explain why. You are not unkind. You are not disloyal. Yet somehow, they did not choose you as the person to trust. These situations lead many people to harsh conclusions about themselves. I'm just not trustworthy. I'm not the kind of person others open up to. Maybe I'm too ordinary, too awkward, too something. But I would ask you to consider another explanation, one that is less condemning and far more useful. Perhaps you have simply been sending the wrong signals without knowing it. You see, trust is not built in a courtroom with evidence and arguments. It is built in the heart with feelings and impressions. We like to imagine that people ask themselves, is this person right? Are they correct? Are their facts in order? But that is not the first question most human beings ask. The first question, usually unspoken and unconscious, is much simpler. Is this person safe for me? If they feel you are safe, they will listen to your ideas, consider your advice, and forgive your mistakes. If they do not feel you are safe, they will resist you, doubt you, or withdraw from you, no matter how honest, intelligent, or well-intentioned you may be. That is why two people can say the very same sentence, and one is trusted while the other is not. The difference is not in the words. It is in the emotional climate surrounding them. This is both a sobering and a hopeful truth. Sobering, because it means good people can fail at trust without ever realizing why. Hopeful, because it means you do not have to change your entire personality to be trusted. You do not have to become louder, smarter, or more charming. You only need to learn how to send one clear message in your conversations. You are safe with me. In my years of working with men and women from every walk of life, I discovered that there is a simple psychological move, quiet, almost invisible, that signals emotional safety faster than long explanations, promises, or appeals to logic. It does not require special talent. It does not require you to agree with everything the other person says. It requires only that you understand one basic law of human nature and express it in a few sincere words. In this talk, I will show you that move. I will show you how to use it when someone disagrees with you, when someone is upset, when a client is cautious, or when a loved one is hurt. You will see how it lowers defenses, how it makes people open up, and how it builds trust faster than any amount of arguing or convincing. And as you practice it, you may find something surprising. Not only will others begin to trust you more, you will begin to trust yourself more in every conversation you have. As I watched people argue, negotiate, and try to convince one another, I came to a simple conclusion that changed the way I spoke to human beings for the rest of my life. People trust you when they feel you understand their point of view, especially when you disagree. Not when you win the argument. Not when you overwhelm them with logic. When they feel, deep down, this person sees the world from where I stand. Most of us do the opposite. The moment we hear something we don't like or don't agree with, we rush to prepare a reply. While the other person is talking, we are already loading our arguments, our corrections, our explanations. Outwardly, we may be quiet. Inwardly, we are saying, yes, but. That yes, but is the sound of trust dying. Human beings are defensive by default. Life has taught them to be careful. They have been judged, dismissed, misunderstood, and ignored so often that their guard goes up automatically. Long before they evaluate your logic, they are evaluating your attitude. They are asking, will this person attack me? Will they make me feel foolish? Will they dismiss what I care about? If the answer seems to be yes, even slightly, trust retreat. To trust you, people need one clear signal, that you are willing to see the world through their eyes before you ask them to see it through yours. That does not mean you must adopt their opinion. It means you recognize their humanity, their feelings, and their reasons as real and valid to them, even if they are not convincing to you. There is a simple way to send that signal, and it begins with a few very ordinary words. I often use sentences like these. I see how you could feel that way. I understand why that might make sense to you. These phrases do not sound extraordinary, but used sincerely, they are powerful. They are what I call trust triggers, small verbal doors that invite the other person to stay open a little longer. Why do they work? First, they remove threat. When someone is upset, worried, or simply has a different opinion, they expect resistance. They brace themselves for, you're wrong, that's ridiculous, or that makes no sense. When instead they hear, I see how you could feel that way, their muscles relax, the attack they prepared for never comes. Second, they validate their inner world. You are not saying, you are absolutely right. You are not handing them the victory. You are saying, given who you are, what you've experienced, and what you see, your reaction is understandable. People long to have their inner world acknowledged. When you do that, you become rare. Third, these sentences show respect without agreement. This is essential. Many fear that if they say, I understand, they are surrendering. That is not so. You can understand without endorsing. You can say, I see why you'd feel that way, and still hold a different conclusion. In fact, people are far more willing to hear your conclusion after they feel you have understood theirs. Fourth, the trust trigger opens the door for influence later. If you begin by fighting for your point of view, you close the door. If you begin by recognizing theirs, you keep it open. Once someone feels seen and safe, they are far more willing to examine other possibilities. Let me show you how this works in very ordinary situations. A coworker is upset about workload. They say, I feel like I'm carrying more than everyone else. It's not fair. The typical response might be, that's not true, or everyone is busy. Immediately, they feel dismissed. Now try this instead. I can see how you could feel that way, especially with the deadlines you've had lately. Tell me more about what your week has looked like. You have not promised to agree. You have simply acknowledged that, from their vantage point, their feeling is understandable. A partner is frustrated about something small, the dishes, the schedule, a forgotten message. You may be tempted to say, you're overreacting, or it's not a big deal. That may be logical, but it destroys trust. Instead, I understand why that would frustrate you. You've had a long day, and it probably felt like one more thing on your shoulders. Again, you have neither surrendered the entire argument nor criticized them. You have connected with their feeling before addressing the task. A friend shares a worry. I'm afraid this new job is going to be a mistake. You might want to relieve them with, don't worry, it will be fine. But that often leaves people feeling unheard. Try. I see why you'd be anxious. It's a big change and you've taken risks before that didn't feel good. What's the part that worries you most? Now you are standing beside them, not shouting reassurance from a distance. A client expresses hesitation about your proposal. I'm not sure this investment is right for us. Many respond with pressure. It's perfectly safe. You shouldn't worry. Pressure pushes trust away. Instead, I understand why you'd want to be cautious here. This is your money, and you've probably seen offers that weren't in your favor. Would it help if we walked through the risks together? You have honored their caution instead of fighting it, and in doing so, you become more trustworthy. Notice something important in all these examples. The trust trigger is genuine, brief, and calm. It does not go on for 5 minutes. It does not turn into a speech. It appears as a short bridge between their world and yours. I see how you could feel that way. I understand why that might make sense to you. Then you walk across that bridge with questions, patience, And, only later, your own perspective. You may be thinking, but what if I truly disagree? My answer is, that is precisely when this move matters most. Anyone can say, I understand, when they already agree. Trust is built when you show understanding even while holding a different view. That is where respect lives. This simple recognition, genuine, sincere, and brief, creates more trust than 1,000 explanations. Now let us make this practical. A principle is only useful when it can be carried into a real Tuesday afternoon, into a busy office, a tired marriage, a restless friendship. The psychology of trust is no different. It does not live in theory. It lives in the next sentence you speak. The first step is an inner shift. Most people enter a disagreement or a tense moment with one hidden purpose: to be right. They may not say it aloud, but inwardly they are thinking, how do I prove my point? How do I show them they're mistaken? As long as that is your purpose, you will miss the other person entirely. You will listen just enough to prepare your reply, and they will feel it. They will not call it out by name, but they will sense, this person is not really with me. They are waiting to talk, so I invite you to change that inner purpose from, I must be right, to, I must understand. Before you open your mouth, ask yourself, what would this look like from their viewpoint? That one question changes the way you listen, the way you look at them, even the way you breathe. You are no longer standing across from them, ready for battle. You are standing beside them, trying to see what they see. To support this inner shift, there are a few small outward behaviors, micro-behaviors, that send a powerful message of safety. First, pause before responding. When someone says something that touches your pride or challenges your idea, your instinct is to answer quickly. A quick reaction feels strong, but it often feels threatening to the other person. Instead, let there be a 1 or 2 second pause. Look at them. Let your face stay calm. That tiny gap tells them, I am considering what you said, not just reacting to it. It is a small silence, but it speaks louder than many words. Second, mirror their emotions softly. If they are calm, speak calmly. If they are frustrated, do not match their intensity, but do not dismiss it either. Be steady. Think of yourself as an anchor. When their feelings rise, your steadiness tells them, you can bring your emotion here. I will not explode back at you. People trust those who can remain grounded without being cold. Third, use the trust trigger sentence. This is where the words themselves begin to work. You might say, I can see why you'd think that. I understand why that might worry you. That makes sense from your side. Remember, you are not confessing defeat. You are not signing a contract that says, I agree with every part of this. You are simply recognizing that, given their experience and perception, their reaction is understandable. This gives their mind a place to rest. It tells them, you are not crazy for feeling this. Fourth, follow with curiosity. Trust does not grow in a monologue. It grows in an invitation. After you have recognized their viewpoint, add a simple question. Tell me more about what led you there. What made you feel that way? What's the part that concerns you most? Curiosity is a strong medicine. It takes the energy that might have gone into defensiveness and sends it into explanation instead. People would much rather explain themselves than defend themselves. When you ask them to explain, their guard lowers. Let me show you how this looks in a few common situations. Your boss says, I think your proposal is too risky. Your instinct might be to say, no, it isn't, and begin arguing point by point. Instead, you pause. You say, I understand why you might see it that way. It does involve a big change. Could you share which part feels riskiest to you? Now you are not wrestling against them. You are exploring with them. You may still disagree, but they will feel you are on the same side of the problem. A friend says, I've been feeling ignored by you lately. Those words sting. You might want to answer, that's not true, and recite the times you were there for them. Resist that impulse. Take a breath. Say, I can see how you could feel that way, especially with how busy I've been. I'm sorry it's felt that way. Can you tell me when you started feeling like this? The conversation that follows may not be easy, but it will be honest. You have chosen understanding over defense. A partner brings up an old frustration. You always forget what's important to me. You may feel that this is unfair. You may want to argue about the word always. Instead, try, I understand why that would hurt you. When something matters to you and I miss it, it must feel like you're not seen. I don't want that. Can you tell me a moment when you felt that most strongly? You have not accepted the word always as a scientific fact. You have accepted their pain as real. A client pushes back on price. I'm not sure this is worth what you're charging. Many people especially in business, respond with immediate justification. Our price is competitive, and here's why. Before you do that, say, I can see why you'd want to be careful. This is a significant investment. What would you need to feel completely comfortable with this decision? You have honored their caution, and in doing so, you have made yourself worthy of their business. Now, as with any powerful tool, there are misuses you must avoid. One mistake is overdoing validation. Saying, you're absolutely right when you do not mean it will sooner or later ring hollow. It is not necessary to declare them right. It is enough to declare them understandable. That is the beauty of phrases like, I see why you'd feel that way, or that makes sense from your side. They are honest, respectful, and still leave room for your own perspective. Another mistake is making it about you too soon. Someone shares a fear or a frustration, and you immediately respond, I know exactly how you feel. I went through the same thing, and then talk at length about your story. Your intention may be to connect, but the effect is to shift the spotlight away from them. There will be a time to share your experience, but let them empty their heart first. A third mistake is trying to fix the problem immediately, especially when we care. We rush to offer solutions. Here's what you should do. Next time, it's simple. You only need to. Solutions are good, but only after the person feels understood. If you skip understanding and go straight to fixing, they often feel like a project, not a person. So in your next difficult conversation, remember this order. Pause, understand, recognize, then, and only then, respond. If you practice this, you will notice that people begin to say things like, I feel like I can talk to you, or you actually get what I'm saying, even when you do not agree with them on every point. That is trust being born. Trust grows the moment a person feels you understand them, not the moment you prove anything about yourself. Let me walk you into a few ordinary rooms where this small change in words and attitude alters everything. You will recognize these places because you have stood in them many times. Scene 1, workplace conflict. You are in a meeting. A project has fallen behind. Tension is in the air, even if no one names it. A colleague across the table says, I don't think this delay is on my team. We've been doing our part. The problem is in your department. Before long, voices rise. You answer quickly. That's not fair. We sent everything on time. You're the one who... They lean back, arms crossed. Someone else jumps in. People begin talking over each other. No one is listening now. They are defending. The words are about tasks and dates. But under the surface, the real emotion is, I don't feel safe. I feel blamed. By the end of the meeting, nothing has been solved. The issue is still there, but now it is covered with a thin layer of resentment. The project suffers, and so does trust. Now let us replay the same moment with one small change. Your colleague says, with the same tone, I don't think this delay is on my team. The problem is in your department. You feel the sting, but instead of firing back, you pause. You take a breath, look at them, and say, I can see why you'd feel that way. From your side, it must look like things are stuck with us. Could we walk through the timeline together so we can see where it really broke down? You have not accepted blame. You have accepted their perception as understandable. The energy in the room shifts. Their shoulders drop a little. All right, they reply, let's look at it. Now you are both standing on the same side of the problem rather than on opposite sides of an invisible fence. As you go through the dates, you may still discover that the delay was shared or even that they were mistaken. But because you first said, I can see why you'd feel that way, they can accept this without humiliation. You showed that your goal was not to win, but to understand and solve. Scene 2, relationship tension. Now we step into a living room late in the evening. A partner is sitting with folded arms. Quiet. You ask, what's wrong? And hear the heavy reply, you never listen to me. Those 4 words have started more useless arguments than almost any phrase I know. The usual answer is, that's not true, followed by a list of times you did listen. They answer with a list of times you didn't. Soon you are debating history, arguing over details no one will clearly remember, and the original hurt is buried under fresh ones. What is happening underneath? One person is saying, I feel alone. I feel unimportant to you. The other person is saying, I feel accused and unappreciated. Both are hurting. Neither feels understood. Let us try a different response. When you hear, you never listen to me, you feel the sting, but you do not rush to correct the word never. Instead, you say, quietly, I understand why you'd feel that way. There have been times when you were talking and I was distracted or tired, and that must have hurt. I'm sorry. Can you tell me a moment when you felt I really wasn't there for you? Now, instead of standing in a courtroom, you have opened a confessional. Your partner is more likely to say, last week, when I was telling you about my day and you kept looking at your phone, I just felt invisible. You may still explain your side that you were stressed, that you didn't mean to dismiss them, but it comes after you have acknowledged their experience. In that simple sentence, I understand why that hurt you. You did something rare. You made space for their pain without defending yourself first. The tension that might have exploded into a fight now melts into a conversation. Trust grows, not because you were perfect, but because you were willing to see the wound before the argument. Scene 3, client hesitation. Now picture a small office or a video call with a client. You have presented your offer, explained the benefits, answered their questions. They lean back and say, I don't know. I'm just not sure this is the right move for us. The common reaction is to press harder. Let me show you why this is safe, you insist. You open more slides. You talk faster. You pile on information. The more you push, the more they retreat. A day later, they send a brief message. Thank you for your time, but we've decided to go in another direction. The truth is, they did not feel understood. They felt sold. Now imagine you respond differently. When they say, I'm just not sure this is the right move for us, you nod and say, I see why you'd want to be cautious. This is your money and your reputation, and you've probably seen offers before that weren't in your favor. Would it help if we went through the risks together? And you tell me what concerns you most? You have not attacked their hesitation. You have respected it. Caution is not your enemy. It is their way of protecting what matters to them. By saying, I see why you'd want to be cautious, you stand with that instinct instead of against it. Very often, they will lean in rather than lean away. Well, they might say, I'm mainly worried about, and then name one or two specific fears. Now you are not trying to convince a vague reluctance. You are addressing concrete concerns. Even if they still decide not to proceed, you have become, in their mind, someone trustworthy, someone who listens before they sell. And many times, precisely because you did not pressure them, they return later when the time is right. Scene 4, friendship misunderstanding. Finally, consider two friends. Something small has gone wrong, a message that wasn't answered, an invitation that wasn't extended, a joke that felt like an insult. Each person feels a little wounded, and each tells themselves a story. One thinks, if they cared, they wouldn't treat me this way. The other thinks, if they really knew me, they'd know I meant no harm. Both feel misunderstood. Both feel a little offended. When they eventually speak, the conversation often begins this way. You were wrong to do that. Well, you misunderstood me. Voices tighten, eyes narrow. Old stories are dragged into the room and the misunderstanding grows roots. But there is another way. One of them might say, when you didn't reply, I felt ignored. The other feels accused and wants to answer. I was busy. You're overreacting. Instead, they pause, remember the law of trust, and say, that makes sense from your point of view. If I were in your place, I might feel the same. I should have told you I was overwhelmed that day. I'm sorry it came across as indifference. In that moment, respect returns. The first friend no longer has to prove their hurt. It has been recognized. The second friend has not surrendered their innocence. They have simply honored the other's perspective. The sharp edges of the misunderstanding grow softer. From there, both can speak more freely. Here's what was happening for me. Here's what I wish I had done differently. The friendship that might have quietly cooled now deepens. Why? Because both have experienced something rare, being seen even when things went wrong. You and I live our lives in scenes like these. Offices, kitchens, sidewalks, messages on a small screen. In each scene, trust either grows or shrinks, not in grand speeches, but in a few simple sentences and the spirit behind them. You do not need to be extraordinary to transform your relationships. You do not need to win more arguments or collect more facts. You need only to practice this one habit. Before you defend yourself, before you present your case, step into the other person's shoes long enough to say, with sincerity, I see why you'd feel that way. I understand how that looks from your side. People trust you when you stop trying to win and start trying to understand. Let us step back for a moment and look at what we have really been talking about. Most people try to build trust with arguments, logic, or persuasion. They gather facts, polish their explanations, and work very hard to make their case. Yet again and again, they find that people still resist, still hold back, still doubt. Why? Because trust is not built by proving how right you are. It is built by showing how well you understand them. The simple psychology trick we have explored together is this. Recognize their perspective before you present yours, not after you have spoken for 10 minutes, not as a quick courtesy at the end. First, you pause. You step into their shoes. You say, I see how you could feel that way. I understand why that might make sense to you. And then, only then, do you offer your own view. You may have thought you needed to impress people to be trusted. You may have believed you had to appear strong, certain, and impressive. But you do not need to impress people. You need to understand them. People trust the one who makes them feel safe to show who they are. You can begin to see yourself in a new light. I am someone people trust because they feel safe expressing themselves with me. That is a very different identity from I am someone who is always right, or I am someone who knows the answers. One is about your ego. The other is about their safety. And it is their sense of safety that determines whether trust grows or withers. To make this practical, you might carry a few short sentences with you, little reminders you can repeat quietly before a difficult conversation. I don't need to be right. I need to understand. I recognize before I respond. I make people feel safe to open up. You can say these words in your mind as you walk down a hallway, pick up the telephone, or sit down across from someone who is upset. They will steady you. They will remind you of your true aim. Not to win, but to understand. Then comes the practice. Today, choose just one moment, a disagreement, a complaint, a hesitation, and instead of defending yourself first, use a trust trigger sentence. I can see why you'd think that. I understand why that would worry you. That makes sense from your side. Then follow it with a simple question. Can you tell me a little more? Watch what happens. Watch how their shoulders relax, how their voice softens, how their words become more honest. That is trust forming in real time. At the end of the day, ask yourself one quiet question. Who felt safer because of me today? Not who did I impress? Not who did I prove wrong? Who felt safer because of me? If you ask that question often enough, you will begin to live differently. You will listen more deeply. You will respond more slowly. You will choose understanding over victory. And people at work, at home, in your friendships will start to treat you as what you have become, a person they can trust. Before we part, I would like to know a little about you. Where are you watching from? How old are you? And where do you most want more trust in your work, your relationships, or your friendships? Share it in the comments below. Your experience matters, and you may find that others feel exactly as you do. If you wish to keep learning simple, human ways to build trust, connect more deeply, and handle people with more wisdom and kindness, I invite you to subscribe. These principles work in offices, around kitchen tables, in quiet conversations, and in crowded rooms, everywhere there is a human heart longing to be understood.